A Giants podcast for Giants fans
by Giants fans.
It's Shaun Morash.
On the sideline, into the end zone. Touchdown, Giants!
From the offseason to the wins and the losses, it's time to take one Giant step.
All right, welcome into One Giant Step. The Giants have completed their Thanksgiving embarrassment. We've paid our dues to society, and the Giants have fallen again 27-20 to the Dallas Cowboys. I'm Shaun Morash, joined by Bryce Gelman. A lot of negatives to come out of this. I guess very minimal positives that I will address. I'm full disclosure. Brycey and I enjoyed a Thanksgiving. We finished Thanksgiving. Bryce was traveling on the road. I came home. We are taping the show on Black Friday. So if you didn't get this out in the immediacy, hey, we appreciate you downloading and subscribing everywhere podcasts are available. If you were looking for it on a Friday morning, walking the dog, heading out shopping, and it wasn't there for you, our apologies. But we're still getting this out on a Friday. So I like being transparent with the audience. That's where we're at. But I did just get done doing a 4.5-hour show on WFAN talking a lot of Giants football. So if you caught it there, thank you. We'll kind of bounce some of my thoughts off Bryce Gelman here as well. Bryce, let's get it. First of all, happy Thanksgiving. Everything went well?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Good. I've already had my leftover sandwich. Have you? Have you had your leftovers yet?
I just got home like 20 minutes ago. So
you didn't. Calm down. All right, kid. Calm down. All right. Anyway, Giants lost to Dallas, and I was tweeting up a storm yesterday. I'm big on the narrative of, and you know this from listening to the preview pod, the team did look soft, and I was worried that the team would quit. That team, on a short notice, short week, did not quit. Didn't result in a win at all, but that's okay if you really want the top pick and want to tank. And I think that we've officially, and more on this in a little bit with injuries, have crossed over into the Giants are not going to end up picking 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. No. They're going to pick in the top 3 of this draft. And there is a really, really, really strong chance as it stands right now based on roster, schedule, other team schedule. They are going to get the first overall pick in the draft, which will be exciting. And I think will be exciting for this podcast and for the listeners. And I think it's hard for fans to put themselves in a place of excitement for the Giants. But I promise you will get there once you have to get through these games. Bryce, I don't know if you felt the same way watching this game yesterday. And I know Dallas Cowboys are not a great opponent. We both picked them to win the game. You know, yesterday is decided, Thanksgiving Day is decided on a couple really bad Drew Lock turnovers. It was. As much as the tackling was a problem defensively, Drew Lock was force-feeding Malik Neighbors, and he had a couple drops. Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary were doing their best to run the ball, and the offensive line was clearly better on the run. It's the pick 6 to Overshown where Drew Lock has no idea what's in front of him. And then the fumble that sets Dallas up. And in the end, this Giant team loses a game by a touchdown that with better quarterback play, stop me when you've heard this before, finds a way to win a football game. And yes, there are holes and there are warts, and we can pound them into oblivion about how many holes the New York Giants have. But I come back on at the end of this year, when I make a long list of, how much would a quarterback make a difference on this Giant team? I'm sorry, Bryce. It's going to be another game where I look at where if you have a good, I'll even take competent quarterback, even behind this beat up offensive line, they win the game, man. Like Locke lost them the game, push come to shove. Yeah. And it's not to say everything he did was negative. He got the ball out. He found Neighbors. He had those couple runs, but those turnovers. And now I see why Dable liked DeVito and went to he's not turning the ball over the way Drew Lock would, and it cost him the game. So I don't know I haven't talked to you at all about this. I don't know where you stand on how and why the Giants lost this game, but I come back to the quarterback play, man.
Yeah, I mean, you always can go to the quarterback play. You could always blame whoever it is the Giants have as a quarterback. I just think that there's a marginal difference in who the Giants had with Daniel Jones, who they went to with Tommy DeVito, and who they have now with Drew Lock. All these guys are very similar. What do they realistically bring you in terms of their abilities, in helping you win a game? They're all the same. They're one and the same. So I think, you could focus on quarterback play. Those 2 major turnovers. First off, that was a really good play from Overshown. I think that was an amazing play in person. Did he really just do that? So good for him. Congratulations. Drew Lock shouldn't have made the throw anyway. But I choose to focus on the lack of effort on defense, Shaun. How many missed tackles? I think there were 8 missed tackles in that first quarter. How is that even possible? I don't know what the end total was, but what you saw defensively was a complete lapse in effort and any sort of intensity. And we've seen this kind of building up week by week by week by week. and it was kind of blown up by the comments made by Dexter Lawrence. They did not show up in this game, Shaun. And it was just like a more pathetic, frustrating Giants football to have to watch, especially sitting around family, screaming, hollering, and yelling when what else could you expect? This is what we expected.
Yeah.
Not good enough.
I think I expected him to even run the ball a little better. It's just not turning the ball over. Like, if you don't turn the ball over, you're going to have a chance. And the Giants aren't generating enough turnovers defensively.
Yeah.
It's so disgusting to sit through and get through. But Bryce, again, people are going to yell and scream when they hear this, and I've dealt with it. And you saw me on social media. Dude, when the team is down 27-10 at that point, and it starts to feel like the game's slipping away, did you in your right mind think this Giant team was going to have the guts and the goal to come back? No kicks, field goal, they go to touch and drop. And let's face it, that's a gutsy call by McCarthy. If that's a drop pass or something, the Giants have the ball with 2 minutes left. Now, do they get sacked? Anything was possible. But a team, to me, that quits on the head coach is not making that a game again.
Yep.
And is not coming. I mean, they came out with fire, with passion. They had their first lead since October 6th. So minimal wins. And again, this is coming from a place of defending Brian Daboll a little bit. That didn't sense to me like a team that had quit on the coach. So doesn't matter. In the end result, it's a loss. But I'm trying to get, and maybe it's leading a horse to water, but you can't exactly do it. I am trying to get fans to think the way I'm thinking. And that's probably the wrong approach, because everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And maybe this is why I keep getting frustrated.
Yeah.
But the way I am seeing this and thinking this is, the Giants need to address the quarterback and get the franchise quarterback right. I don't know if they will do that in April, but I know they will have a chance. And the best way to do that and have a chance is to get the top pick in the draft. This way, there's no questions on left. You can't say you didn't get your guy. But the other part of this that is going so overlooked, and why losing these games is important, is that when you don't have to trade multiple first rounders or a first and a second rounder to get up and get your quarterback, you keep your capital. And the big debate all year has been, are the Giants a quarterback away? And my answer to this has always been yes and no. Like, they're a quarterback away with this roster, clearly, if it's an elite quarterback that they can compete, because I just brought up how many games they won an elite quarterback. However, they're a quarterback with a big offseason away, I think, from being a really solid foundation team. And if you have the top pick in the second round, the top pick in the third round, and the top pick in the fourth round, and it looks anything like this past draft class and not the previous two, and you get a quarterback out of it, and you have close to $70 million in cap space to, appropriately spend without going totally. You're telling me that you don't have an offseason set up where the Giants should look like a much different football team in the next 2 years? You should. So losing sucks. But at the end of the day, when you walk away from that loss, you have to, this sucks, fire everybody. That's what you need to do to set yourself up to be a good football team the next 2 years.
Sean, can I cut you off quickly, because I'm going to play devil's advocate here. The idea, that you're trying to sell here, I agree with. I mean, how many times have we discussed this? We're both been on the same page on this all year long. But when you lose in the manner that they have lost, in the fashion they have lost, with the team completely quitting on each other, on the coaching staff, on ownership, on the fans, why would fans want to give these guys another chance? I think they should. I think we should all collectively give them a chance. But why wouldn't you?
Ultimately, I don't disagree with people's opinion why they should. Like, I get why people say that. I'm not just like digging my heels in. You're wrong. I get the resume for wanting to get rid of the guys. But I also, I can't forget what happened in 2022. And in fact, I look at 2022 more like unbelievable Daboll did because of how bad Jones is in hindsight. Like, it looked like Jones saved him. Daboll saved Jones in hindsight. Daboll just milked everything he got out of it. And I also really want to reward Joe Schoen for not sitting there and panic taking J.J. McCarthy or Michael Penix and taking the best player available, Malik Neighbors. Like, I thought that showed growth as a general manager to stick to best player available and not panic take. So it would almost be like, if I fire these guys, everybody will say, well, you're firing for the first two drafts. No. But now recently, I'm firing them while punishing them for what they did well. And I get that that's hard for fans to see. Also, part of the reason I want these guys back, and off of a game like this that I want these guys back, is with all due respect to John Mara, I don't fully trust him as an owner to not just hire. And like, that plays into it. We have to be real. It's not just like what Ed from the deli in Secaucus says. Like, the owner of the Giants, it took a lot for him to go outside the box of he hired two people he had no idea about, in Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. He went through a process and he said, I need to get people outside the organization to look in. And these guys, it's a long-term plan, and they're building it. And John Mara said the right things. However, if he pulls the plug on this after 3 years, why would he go, I got to do that same exact thing again, and then hire, a GM who hires Ben Johnson? He's likely to go find a friend. Maybe he brings back Jerry Reese. Maybe it is Bill Belichick. And is that really what you want for the direction of this team? And more so, if the argument against Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll off this game is you can't afford to screw up this offseason, I would argue that's an argument in favor of keeping them.
Yep.
Because when you have the top pick in the first round, second round, third round, and you have that kind of cap space, but really the draft preparation is what's important here, right? Joe Schoen changed his draft philosophy and had a good draft. There's no denying this draft has been good. Hopefully those players are good beyond this year. Obviously anything could change. Teams rosters change. But I don't want to hire a guy. You think about it. You don't want to rush hire. So you're going to go through a process that will likely take 3 weeks to a month. They're not going to fire a guy on Black Monday and then have a guy hired by that Friday. You're going to hire a GM first, right? And then the GM is going to go through the head coach. So I'm talking about probably a month before you'll figure that. And God forbid you want somebody like Ben Johnson who's in the Super Bowl. You're really not going to know until mid-February.
Yep.
Free agency will start 4 weeks after, and the draft is 8 weeks after. I don't want these guys behind the 8 ball on their draft preparation looking at, like, Ben Johnson's going to be focused on the line. He's not going to be focused on the quarterbacks in the draft and everything that's going on there. So I want to risk that. By the way, that's how the first draft sucked to begin with for the Giants.
2022.
They had all the Gelman scouts and everything. This draft is too important to go through a process where you're going to hire an entire regime who's so behind what you need to do to have a proper draft. So maybe that's backwards thinking. I'm just telling you that's where my point of view stands. So Daboll not losing the locker room, I thought it was good. Now here's the problem, and this is where the big payoffs are going to be. Forget breaking down the game. I gave you what happened in the game. The young players played well. Look at the best players who were on the field yesterday. Neighbors, Tyrone Tracy,
Newbin,
Theo Johnson, Tyler Newbin, Drew Phillips, and I would go to, I thought Brian Burns actually taking on double teams, so people didn't like, I thought I liked the game he played. Those 7 guys were all the Joe Schoen offseason of this offseason. They were the best players on the field. Okay. That's the breaking down of the game. Now what comes out of this game? Dexter Lawrence has a dislocated elbow. His injury's long-term. It's already December. I translate that towards, we heard Brian Daboll on Friday's press conference, Dexter Lawrence has likely been lost for the final 5 games of the season. On a team where a major hole in this team already was defensive tackle number 2. So I think that's a problem. Now, Theo Johnson, who was coming along, had a good second half yesterday, has come along the last couple of weeks. He is out for the season. Those are 2 of the 8 best players left in the Giants right now, or the players you want to watch. They're out for the year. It's all about what John Mara can stomach and what fans can stomach. This is actually going to get worse. They put up a good fight versus a bad team. Not having Dexter Lawrence in the middle of the field, even if you thought the Saints was a game they were going to win, how are they going to stop any of the Saints backs and Alvin Kamara without 2 defensive tackles? Like, they're already losing Dexter Lawrence. I don't think the Giants are going to win another game this year, so I think they're going to finish 2-15. So I could scream and yell about keeping Daboll. If John Mara doesn't have the stomach to keep somebody on a 2-win season when they don't win a home game, then that's the decision he's going to make. But losing Dexter Lawrence and Theo Johnson officially firmed up for me. The tank is on. It will be exciting when we get there as the first overall pick. But I am going to have angst and uneasiness about what this owner decides to do next for the future of GM and coach in such a critical offseason. And as much as I want those guys to stay, keeping that locker room's already down. Daniel Jones and Andrew Thomas, who were captains. Dexter Lawrence, a captain. There's not a lot of leadership left in that room, man. There's not a lot of leadership left in that room. So can the locker room survive 5 weeks? We don't know. And if I had to go to the shift meter, I would say 55-45 Daboll at least is out. That would be my guess. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just projecting here that these injuries, they felt like throwaway today. I think are a big deal to keeping the locker room and keeping the competitive spirit of these games together. I think they were sneaky important despite wanting to lose. Bryce, your thoughts?
Well, to be fair, in that game, Dexter Lawrence goes out early in the second half. The Giants are down 27-10. They come back. They scored 10. They scored.
True that.
You know, so Dexter Lawrence is already off the field. He was getting checked out in the locker room. It was assumed that he'd be out for the game. Then he was ruled out. And then after that, I'm sure they knew that he had a bad injury. He dislocated his elbow. So they did show some fight, even with Dexter Lawrence out and potentially lost for the season. So I don't think that that's necessarily going to be a factor here. The fact that these guys are hurt now. And now, I don't know if you saw, but Theo Johnson looks like he's going to be out for.
That's what I just said, yeah. I just said he's going to be out for the year,
Theo's going to be out, so you got Bellinger stepping up. All right, terrific. This is the best case scenario in terms of helping the team lose. I'm going to take the other angle of it because I know you think that it's going to lose the locker room and things are going to get worse. I agree. I tend to agree. But in terms of helping the Giants lose without, looking like a complete and total embarrassment, like at least you'll have that excuse of, oh, well, the best defensive tackle in football isn't playing anymore on this team. The excuses were mounting, all right, well, the quarterback play, defensive effort is gone. You still had one of the best defensive lines in football. Going into this past game against the Cowboys, you still possess 3 really good pass rushers. Dexter Lawrence himself being, all-around type guy. Kayvon, same thing. You get my point. Now with these guys out, now with some impactful players out, you could still lose. You're going to lose. I agree with you. 5 games left. The Giants, who are they going to beat? That's the thing. Maybe the Eagles, who have nothing to play for, but it's looking like they'll have something to play for, considering the fact the Lions are only 1 game, I guess 2 games. Right. So either way, Shaun, I think that when you really dial everything back and you take a look objectively at the situation, that I get where fans are coming from. I get wanting to get rid of these guys. I understand, the 5 games left, it's going to get worse. It's going to look terrible. But Shaun, do you really trust John Mara? Do you really trust John Mara more than you trust Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll? I don't think anyone could say that. And that's the dilemma. That's the biggest variable in all of this. I think if we had an owner that we trusted, this would not be an issue. You'd be like, okay, well, if you trusted the guy, you trusted his decision in the first place to think outside the box and bring Brian Daboll in, bring Joe Schoen in, but you don't trust him. That's the issue. So then you're like, oh, you're questioning, was that the right move? But now going forward, do you trust him? I don't. I personally don't.
And look, that doesn't mean I'm calling John Mara bad. I don't think he's a bad owner. I don't think he cares very much about the organization. But think about it. He has really important decision-making, important instincts. That's ultimately his call. And I say this because he is on the record of saying, we need to do something more outside the box. I got probably too comfortable to Gelman hire. You go back to all that pre-hiring Shane Daboll press. It's all there. If you're firing these guys after 3 years, I don't trust he's going to do that again. And by the way, Ben Johnson was Brian Daboll 3 years ago. Like, you know what I mean? So if that's all your pipe dreams about stuff like that, that's all fine. There will be stuff that would excite me. Like I would be intrigued by Ben, but like the general manager part of this is what, if you hired Vrabel, fine. Like I would be excited. The general manager part of this scares the ever daylights out of me. And ultimately you're going to see a bunch of picks that are all scouted on by Shane guys. So it sucks, man. It sucks. I promise though, we're going to be in a positive thought because if you get the first pick, like we're going to celebrate that. Think about that. Bryce, the Giants have never picked first overall in your life. They got Eli Manning as a first overall pick, but they were picking 4th. To be able, and they had to think about all the trade and the picks they made. To be able to maintain your assets and pick first overall in a year that you also need a franchise quarterback, like you're gonna get other players besides the quarterback. That is going to be exciting. It's going to be an exciting offseason. But getting through these next 5 weeks, especially with no Dexter Lawrence, Theo Johnson, it's going to be a grind, man. It's going to be a grind. And we're going to be with it every step of the way. I'm going to be full disclosure with the audience. I'm losing my voice. I have turkey breath. I have turkey farts. And the Giants stink. So keep downloading and subscribe. No matter what happens to these games, we're going to preview them and we're going to talk about them and we're going to give you a fantasy reality play and we're going to get through these because we're not quitting like Tom Brady accused Daniel Jones of. We're not quitting on the Giants season.
That was crazy. That's crazy.
By the way, is it? Because I said the same. Insane. I said the same take on Evan and Tiki last week, and Evan laughed me out of the room.
But you're not Tom Brady, so
I know. So nobody cared. But my point is, I felt better. Tom Brady thought the same way. Doesn't mean the Giants treated him well. And you know what? You want to act like you're a big tough guy in the room. I agree with Tom Brady. So neither here nor there. 888-8. Oh wait, I'm still giving the phone number. I'm on the show. At Bryce Gelman. At Bryce Gelman on Twitter. At Shaun Morash on Twitter. I'm going to take my kids to a tree lighting. Thank you, everybody, for taking one giant step with us.